inflation will fall below 2%. As soon as his rent component catches up to the data, and everyone's now talking about this except bobbleheads on CNBC, inflation's it's here. It's not really here. It's coming down. X energy. If oil goes to $150 a barrel because of something in the Middle East, all bets are off. And the current level, so the question is, when will the Fed lower rates? Because he's going to have 350 basis points real interest rates. And here's where it gets really tricky. Because the economy is too strong. It's too strong because of public spending. It's not too strong because of private spending. Private spending is rolling over. You saw UPS's numbers this morning. You've seen, in the last 2 weeks, you've probably seen 200,000 job layoff announcements at Macy's, Amazon. Everyone's laying workers off. The federal government's hiring them. So all construction should lose 1 million jobs. We raise interest rates 500%. We have a piece of land in Fort Lauderdale. We're going to warehouse it. We're not going to build it. The numbers don't make sense. Across the country, construction is plummeting. Industrial construction is down 70%. When we get through this wave of multis, which we're finishing, you'll probably have down 70% in multifamily construction. You would see 1 million construction workers unemployed, like you did in 07, 08. You've seen none. Why? Bridges, roads, and tunnels. The New Hampshire election, talking about, we're building all these roads and bridges and tunnels. This is the infrastructure bill. It's $1 trillion bill. They're spending enough money to keep these guys employed, so you're not getting. So the Fed keeps using this really blunt, horrible instrument, 5.5% interest rates with two huge victims themselves, because we have a $34 trillion deficit, and it's going to run, the debt is going to roll over. A third of our debt rolls over this year. He can pay 5.3% on it, or he can pay 3% if he lowers rates. That's $200 billion. That's a quarter of the defense budget, which is the largest component of our budget. So he has a choice: pay $300 billion on $13 trillion, or pay $500 billion on $13 trillion. It's up to you, right? So it's 3% or 5%. That's one problem. Second problem is the regional banks. He's blown a hole through their balance sheets. The $1.9 trillion of real estate loans in the regional banks. There's only $800 billion in the money center banks. And he blew their banks to garbage. Like, these banks are out of business. Like, they can't make money offering us 5.5% CD rates, right? So they're in serious trouble, and it's affecting private. There's a delay, but it's affecting business formation and lending. And if you go out to get a loan today, and we're in the business of getting loans, we borrow $30 billion a year, they don't show up. They're not even playing. Right. So the alternatives are the debt funds, which are having a field day. Because we go out send 128 books out to refinance a building that's 100% leased for 10 years in Nashville. And you get 4 bids, and they're all from debt funds. No banks, not one. And the debt funds want 500 over, which is 10% money, which means your building isn't worth a 10 yield anymore, or 6 yield, or 5 yield, or whatever you paid for it. So he's going to have the next crisis, if he doesn't lower rates, is a serious mess in the capital markets and real estate. And fixed income, not fixed income, infrastructure, anything that was yield related. So again, why is it a dull instrument? Half of the labor force that he's trying to kill can't be killed with interest rates. Half of our jobs today are healthcare, government, and education. In 07, 08, those 3 industries added 354,000 jobs. Like, it was the end of the world as we knew it. The banks were going bust. You had TALF. We all thought we were going to go, the Great Depression was happening. And those industries added jobs. There are 48 million jobs. And if you look at those 3 industries, they keep adding jobs. So he's only affecting the portion of the global workforce, the U.S. workforce, that is rate sensitive. Construction, I already told you, can't get it. Manufacturing, it's 15 million jobs. So he's going to knock 1 million out. I mean, you saw General Motors this morning. We had this auto revolution going on, and battery plants. He hasn't gotten. Manufacturing's flat, but it hasn't lost 1 million jobs. And then services, and that's what's happening now. The UPS, downsizing, all this stuff, that's where he can get the job losses he needs. But with interest rates, it was going to happen anyway. Inflation's down. Will he keep rates here? Yes, unfortunately. Why? He's leaving in January. Powell's out. He's not going to be the guy who let inflation come back. So I've actually speaking right in front of him next week in Washington, so I better be nice. I don't believe that he doesn't want his legacy to mean he blew it. So I don't think, I see this morning's CNBC chart, 7% now for a March cut. I don't think we'll get the March cut. I think the data, as soon as inflation falls below 2, there'll be a lot of pressure on him. That might be May. So I think June, you'll see cuts. The question is, and rates will be lower, he'll have to lower them. It'll become very obvious that the private sector is struggling as the consumer runs out of money, which he still has. And why has this economy kept going? Not only his spending, people have jobs. And because they have jobs, the unemployment rate's so good, they're spending. And they're spending money they don't have. It's not in their savings account, it's all gone. And now they're on the credit cards. But Americans are willing to live on a firm. Now we have new ways to spend money we don't have.